Every choice, every action, it all shapes your legacy. It's about resilience. You know, that inner fire that keeps you going when life throws its curveballs? And hey, what if I told you there's a way to become practically unhurtable? To face any challenge head on, almost as if it doesn't faze you at all. To turn every setback into a stepping stone. And hey, if there are any topics you're burning to explore, let us know in the comments. We're always up for a deep dive into new territory.
It's fascinating how we often fixate on what happens to us, the events, the setbacks, those curveballs.
Right, the curveball.
But the true power lies in how we react.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the truth? It's not about denying our feelings, right? But it's about not letting them dictate our actions or define our future.
You got it.
What if we could face our fears, our failures, our hurts, almost as if they didn't have power over us?
This reminds me of the ancient Greek wrestler Milo of Croton.
Okay.
He started by lifting a calf every single day.
Okay.
As the calf grew into a bull, so did Milo's strength. He didn't shy away from the increasing weight. He embraced it, he adapted to it, and ultimately he conquered it.
So you're talking about gradually building resilience, like a muscle.
Yes.
Each time we choose to act as if nothing hurts us, we're training ourselves to handle those bigger challenges.
Precisely. But it's not just about physical strength.
Right.
It's about cultivating an unshakable inner strength, a core resilience that helps us weather any storm.
But isn't ignoring pain unhealthy? I mean, bottling things up doesn't really sound like a recipe for success.
You're right. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about acknowledging the hurt, understanding where it comes from, ultimately choosing not to let it dictate your actions or define your self-worth.
So it's about choosing how we react.
Yes.
Not pretending the hurt doesn't exist.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of our responses, even in the face of adversity. And sometimes the most powerful response is to act as if the hurt doesn't have the power to break us.
So how do we actually do this? How do we shift our mindset to become more resilient?
Well, let's look at a real-world example. There's this story about a speaker who lost his voice right before a major event.
Oh, I can only imagine. For a speaker, that's like a nightmare come true.
Right.
What did he do?
Instead of panicking, he accepted the situation. He knew he couldn't control the laryngitis.
Right.
But he could control his response.
Oh.
He went on stage and he focused on serving his audience, connecting with them on a deeper level.
Okay.
What could have been a total disaster became a moment of shared vulnerability and resilience.
Wow. That's incredibly powerful. He turned a setback into an opportunity to connect with his audience on a whole new level.
Exactly. And that's the key takeaway here. It's not about being immune to hurt or setbacks.
Right.
It's about having the mental fortitude to acknowledge them, process them, and then choose to move forward with strength and purpose.
So what does this all mean for our listeners? What's the first step towards embracing this unhurtable mindset?
Well, it starts with self-awareness, recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond to challenges. Instead of asking, why me, we start asking, what can I learn from this?
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
Absolutely.
Instead of seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance, we become empowered to learn and grow from our experiences.
And that's where true resilience lies.
Okay.
It's not about avoiding pain, but about developing the inner strength to navigate it, learn from it, and ultimately transcend it.
I love that. So it's not about denying our emotions.
Right.
But about choosing how we respond to them. But how do we bridge the gap between feeling hurt and acting unhurtable?
Yeah.
What are some practical steps we can take to cultivate this mindset?
That's a great question. And that's really where the rubber meets the road, so to speak. One powerful technique is what's called radical acceptance. And now this doesn't mean you have to like what happened or pretend it's okay.
Okay.
It's about accepting the reality of the situation without getting stuck in that why me loop.
So instead of dwelling on what we can't control, we shift our focus to what we can.
Exactly. It's about recognizing our power to choose our response. We can choose to wallow in self-pity, or we can choose to learn, to grow, to become stronger.
This reminds me of a story about a man who faced a devastating business failure. He lost everything he had worked for. His dreams were shattered.
Devastating, right? But here's where it gets interesting. He chose to act as if the failure didn't destroy him.
Okay.
He acknowledged the pain, the loss, but he refused to let it define him.
So instead of being crushed by the weight of that setback, he used it as fuel to rebuild.
Exactly. He took action. He learned from his mistakes, and ultimately, he achieved even greater success than before. His story is a testament to the power of radical acceptance and the unhurtable mindset.
But how is this different from toxic positivity?
Yeah.
I mean, aren't we supposed to allow ourselves to feel our emotions?
That's a crucial distinction. Toxic positivity tries to bypass or deny negative emotions altogether.
Okay.
The unhurtable mindset, on the other hand, acknowledges those emotions, allows space for them, but chooses not to let them control us.
So it's about processing those emotions, learning from them, but not letting them dictate our actions or define our self-worth.
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between acknowledging the hurt and choosing to move forward with strength and purpose.
Hmm. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like saying, hey, I see you pain, but you don't get to call the shots.
I love that analogy. It's
Yeah.
about taking back our power, choosing how we respond instead of reacting impulsively.
So we've talked about radical acceptance and the difference between this mindset and toxic positivity.
Uh,
Are there other practical steps we can take to cultivate this unhurtable mindset?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Another powerful technique is focusing on what you can control. You see, it's easy to feel overwhelmed when we focus on all the things that are outside of our control.
Right.
But that only leads to feelings of helplessness and frustration.
So we need to shift our focus to the things we can actually influence, even in the midst of chaos and uncertainty.
Yes. And it's often in those small, seemingly insignificant choices that we find our power. We can choose our attitude, our effort, our perspective.
So to really understand this in practice, let's revisit the story about the speaker who lost his voice.
Yes.
He couldn't control the laryngitis,
Right.
but he could control how he showed up for his audience.
Exactly. He chose to focus on connecting with his audience, sharing his message authentically. Even with a raspy voice, he chose to make the best of a challenging situation.
That's a powerful message for all of us, I think. We can't always control what life throws our way, but we can control how we respond, how we show up, how we choose to move forward.
Absolutely. And those choices over time shape our resilience, our character, and ultimately our legacy.
Now, I know some of our listeners might be thinking this all sounds great in theory, but what about when the hurt is really deep? What about trauma or loss that feels impossible to overcome?
That's a valid concern, and it's important to acknowledge that some hurts require professional help to process and heal.
Mhm.
The unhurtable mindset isn't about suppressing or denying those deep wounds. It's about building resilience over time so that we can navigate life's inevitable challenges with more grace and strength.
So it's about building our capacity to handle those difficult emotions, to process them healthfully, and to find ways to move forward without letting them define us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it takes time. It takes effort.
Got
And it's a journey, not a destination.
And speaking of the journey, how do we make it a part of our everyday lives? How do we turn these concepts into tangible actions? Well, it all starts with small, conscious choices made day after day.
Yeah.
Each time we face a challenge, we have an opportunity to practice this unhurtable mindset.
Think of it as building a mental muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it becomes.
So what are some of those reps we can do to strengthen this muscle?
One powerful technique is reframing. It's about consciously choosing to see challenges as opportunities for growth.
Instead of seeing a roadblock, we look for the detour that leads to an even better destination.
Exactly. And it's not about pretending everything is perfect or ignoring the negative.
Right.
It's about looking for the lesson, the silver lining, the potential for growth that exists even in the midst of difficulty.
Okay, so can you give us an example of what this looks like in practice?
Sure. Imagine you're working on a project and it completely falls apart. Instead of getting discouraged, you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I approach this differently next time?
So we turn the setback into a learning opportunity, a chance to refine our skills and strategies.
Exactly. And that shift in perspective can be incredibly empowering. It takes us from feeling like a victim of circumstance to becoming an active participant in our own growth.
That reminds me of the story of Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. He famously said, "I haven't failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work."
That's a perfect example of reframing failure as a necessary part of the learning process. Edison didn't see those 10,000 attempts as failures. He saw them as steps towards success.
And it really highlights the importance of perseverance. It's not about being immune to setbacks, but it's about having the grit and determination to keep going even when things get tough.
Exactly. And this leads us to another powerful technique, gratitude.
Gratitude, how does that tie into the unhurtable mindset?
When we focus on what we're grateful for, it shifts our attention away from the negative and toward the positive. It helps us to see the good, even in challenging situations.
So it's like choosing to focus on the half full part of the glass, even when it feels like it's half empty.
Precisely. And gratitude has been scientifically proven to have a positive impact on our well-being. It reduces stress, improves sleep, and boosts our overall happiness.
So even in the midst of challenges, we can always find something to be grateful for.
Yes. It could be something as simple as the roof over our heads, the food on our table, or the people who love us. It's about training our minds to notice and appreciate the good.
I can see how that shift in perspective can make a huge difference in how we experience challenges. It's like putting on a pair of rose-colored glasses, not to deny the reality of the situation, but to see the potential for good even amidst the difficulty.
And that shifting perspective is key to cultivating the unhurtable mindset. It's not about being naive or ignoring problems. It's about choosing to focus on what we can control, what we can learn, and what we can be grateful for.
Now, I want to acknowledge that this might sound a bit idealistic. Life can be tough, and it's not always easy to stay positive, especially when we're dealing with hurt and pain.
You're absolutely right. It's important to be realistic and acknowledge that we're human. It's okay to feel those emotions, to experience sadness, frustration, anger. The key is to not let those emotions control us.
So it's about recognizing that we have a choice in how we respond, even in the face of difficult circumstances.
Exactly. And that choice, my friend, is incredibly empowering.
Mhm.
We can choose to wallow in self-pity, or we can choose to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and keep moving forward.
And I believe that within each of us lies this incredible reservoir of inner strength.
Yeah, it's that spark of resilience that allows us to overcome adversity and emerge even stronger on the other side.
It's that belief in ourselves, in our ability to navigate the challenges of life, that ultimately allows us to act as if nothing can truly hurt us.
Because when we tap into that inner strength, when we choose resilience and gratitude, when we reframe challenges as opportunities for growth, we become unshakable.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave our listeners with this final thought.
What is one small step you can take today to embrace this unhurtable mindset? Maybe it's practicing gratitude, reframing a challenge, or simply choosing to respond with calmness instead of reactivity.
Remember, every choice we make shapes our legacy. Every action we take contributes to the person we're becoming. So choose wisely. Choose resilience. Choose to act as if nothing can truly hurt you, because within you lies the power to overcome any obstacle and create a life that is truly extraordinary.